What are your insights from last night? I would like to hear. You can write in the chat or just unmute yourself and say.
From last night, it was interesting in certain ways, but I also thought that I kind of didn't quite get how the universe is conspiring just because some things are happening that are beyond my control.
Yes, it's your subconscious mind doing the job, not the universe.
Okay, but breaking, like you gave an example of your car breaking down. How did
Yeah,
your subconscious mind did that?
because I attracted. We attract things. It's the frequency I was talking in the first session. Everything in matter or in the form of matter, everything around us, including us, we function at a certain frequency. And we are energy, basically. And we function.
So what you're saying, if I understand correctly, what you're saying is that in life, I'll go through life and I'll make decisions that will take me to a certain point based on my past experiences and based on that energy level. Because a car breaking down, for example, could be the consequences of ignoring small things or not going for a better car or not doing things based on my.
That's also that, but it's also leveling my, because we are talking about the financial situation. Yeah, it's about money. I was specifically in that month, I earned more than my level of comfort. Yeah, what I can handle. And the car breaking down I attracted that because I had to go back to the level I was in comfort because I had too much money.
Okay, that's great.
That's how we do that.
Looking forward to hearing the insights from today.
I know it can seem weird.
No, it doesn't. I just wanted an explanation. That's it.
Some people think that we only have to believe what we can see with our own eyes, what we have the logic in our conscious mind. But you have to bear in mind, we have to bear in mind that our life is, in 90% of the cases, is run by the subconscious mind. And only 5 decisions we take in our life are taken by the conscious mind. Now, if you remember the design I showed you yesterday, the 4 poles. Yeah, yesterday we discussed about pride and shame and guilt, which are the lowest levels of consciousness. Yeah, and today we are talking about admiration and resentment. The other 2 poles, these are external poles. While it might not be entirely accurate to say, but I consider that admiration is the most important one and is worth focusing our attention on the positive external pole, the admiration, because we often define our lives in relation to what or who we place in that pole. So I'm pretty sure that by the end of today, you will understand this and you will look at your actions differently. So whenever we are placing someone above us in admiration or rejecting them in resentment, both are just polarized attachments, positive and negative. They are both forms of subconscious subordination to people or even groups we see as authority figures. When I say authority, don't think of the government authority or the state figures. Just when I'm saying authority, I'm talking about the people we had in our lives at some point, like our parents, teachers, grandparents, because they had authority on us when we were kids. So and most of the patterns are formed in childhood and teenage years, and back then our parents were authorities to us, and they shape all these patterns. They shaped how we see the world today, how we behave, how we make decisions, how we take action or not take action. So, like I said, these attachments go both ways. On one side, we have the positive one, admiration, and these are our heroes, saviors, the people we idolize and want to copy and become like them. And on the other side, we have the negative attachments, and we call resentments. Are the people we judge, the people we resent, the so-called villains in our story. So we don't want these people in our life. If we place someone in the admiration pole, and is someone who supports our goals. For if we I give you an example, my let's say I'm a child and my mom is helping me with the homework. They help me achieve something, yes, so they help me do my homework, so I want to become like them and I want to be like them. And it's when I do that, the pattern I develop when I'm an adult, it's I'm helping everyone, the people pleaser. If this external the external trait is positive in my perception, I want to embody it. Like I want to be like my mom, and to be with my mom all the time. So I want to become that thing. The someone who supports other in achieving their goals, and it seems natural because we want to become like someone we admire. And for instance, this can lead to that pattern of becoming the savior, someone who focuses on helping others rather than helping themselves, rather than achieving their goals. Maybe, for example, my mother asked me to bring some good grades, that might lead me to develop a high achiever pattern. Or maybe she expected me to behave well, to be quiet, to follow in her footsteps, to adopt her religion or financial morality, or take on her beliefs about relationship. And now, as an adult, I might think I have a free relationship with my partner or with someone else, but in reality, it's just a modified version of what my role model had. So when we admire someone, we see them as the authority. So we are basically putting them on the pedestal. We look up to them. We feel like we have something to gain from them. We get attached to their way of thinking, and this is how we copy their limiting beliefs as well. Um, it's how somehow, if you think from the financial point of view, that's how financial dependency can creep in your life. um Another thing is that when we put someone above us like that, we subconsciously place ourselves beneath them. And the moment we do that, we start fearing their disappointment. In the same dynamic we had, the same dynamic we had as a kid when our parents got mad at us. We felt this fear of being abandoned or them not fulfilling our needs anymore. I remember when my mom would get so upset, she didn't want to talk to me, and I didn't know how to behave. I didn't know how to, I didn't know what to feel about it. The same way we see authority figures in our lives. It can go to mentors, to leaders, to people basically we admire. And once what we saw in our parents and grandparents and teachers, we see in the people today. So our parents and grandparents were the ones who shaped our world back then, and it still sticks with us. When we form attachments to the people we despise, the ones we judge, we dislike, we want to avoid them at all costs. And ironically, the more we resist them, the more we seem to have them in our lives, because we think so much about how to avoid them that that's what we attract around us. We fixate on not wanting to be like someone, and we actually give them the power over us. And when we cross paths with these people, it feels like a nightmare. So when you resent someone, you don't want them in your life, but when you get them, you feel like it's a nightmare. Yeah. So at this stage, in the resentment pole, we are playing the role of the rebel. Yeah. We go against what we don't like. We don't like people that steal, and we don't like people that follow rules. We don't like people, it can be in many places, but also rebels are attached to something. They are still submissive. They are not as um, blind as the ones that as blind as the ones we have in admiration, but regarding the people we have in admiration, but they are still submissive. They are still waiting for someone to validate them. I know this is hard, but it is what it is. And the simplified way to describe this admiration and resentment towards someone or something, I like the phrase that I heard it many times, that my hero is my limitation. Because even in admiration, you don't go past who you admire. And in resentment, you just revolve around them. You just want to avoid them, and your mind is occupied in finding strategies and solutions to stay away from them. So you are not doing anything else apart from that. Another thing is that most of the time we are aware of the resentment we feel in relationships with certain people, or others who represent the opposite of what of those who played a significant role in our life, like the overprotective mother or grandmother, because we are naturally wired to pay more attention to pain. Pain protects us from danger, so it feels more intense. Pain helps us avoid death. It's great when someone does something nice for us, but it's not as intense as the feeling of being hurt. And this is the foundation of our perception. Attachment forms naturally because our survival often depends on someone taking care of us, valuing us, or seeing us. What is it's normal and natural to see these things, but what is not natural is when this attachment becomes very excessive. For example, if we were overprotected by one of the parents, we might struggle to face life challenges on our own. We may rely on someone to mediate for us or to handle life's difficulties on our behalf. But having attachment itself is not a problem. It's normal. As I said, it's just the excessive attachment is not good. We are just more, let's say, in tune to the negative side of things, to the pain. And that's why I might think, I know that my dad, my mom, my grandmother hurt me. I don't see any admiration there or attachment. I see only pain. And that's perfectly natural. But when you notice the pain, there is also the opposite side as well. As I said, is the principle of duality and polarity, which I said the other day, is about everything in the world around us in the matter with has two poles. So when we look at things, we need to work on both sides. But as I said, as admiration is not as easy to be noticed, and pain is more intense and it's easy to see and feel, we start what is more painful to you. When we start the work to find the attachments, it's better to start with the pain side first. It's but as soon as we find the pain, we find the admiration too. They cannot exist one without the other. uh, so if we want to dissolve these patterns and to break free from this matrix, we must work with both the pain and the admiration with something or someone. Because only if you only work with one pole, you remain stuck in a one-sided perspective. And again, according to the principle of duality and polarity, everything in nature, everything in existence has two poles. So both must be addressed to achieve balance. Now, I think the best way to understand more and to look at your evidence in your life is to give you some examples about from both poles and see how these attachments reflect in your life and how they can affect our situation, financial situation, and financial decisions and career, even basically is everywhere in any area of our life. But this is a program about your financial situation, so I'm gonna be referring to just that. Let's take the resentment side first. I mentioned that you are the rebel who rejects the authority. Maybe you grew up resenting a controlling or bossy parent who dictated how money should be spent, and now you reject financial planning because you don't want to be like them. Then you refuse to follow traditional financial advice, even when it makes sense, just to prove you are different. Also, you avoid structured jobs or businesses, bigger corporations where processes and rules are in place, are more stricter than smaller businesses. And you prefer chaos over rules and end up struggling because you lack structure. So lack of lack of structure means lack of financial stability, if you think about it. I have a client whose dad was strict businessman who worked like 24/7. She hated how work controlled his life. So she vowed never to be like him. Now she bounces between jobs, refusing to commit because stability feels like giving in. And financially, she's always scraping by, rejecting money management because that's what her dad did. It can also be someone who does exactly that in this stage where we hear someone who does the opposite to avoid compliance. Someone is investing in this trend, yeah. So we take investment field, and because I'm special and I want to prove them wrong by not doing it like they do, so I won't do this action. I would do it. I would do other investments. I would go the other way just to prove them wrong. And for example, is the same way I know that taking this action is healthy for me, but I won't do it because that's what my dad or my mom or society expected me to do. So you might think that rebellion wins, but metaphorically, we die with the righteousness in our hands. Then we have people who fear visibility and success. Maybe you resent an older sibling or as a mentor who always got the spotlight, so you play small to avoid competition. You also can hold yourself back from asking for a promotion or raising your prices because standing out feels unsafe. You self-sabotage your business growth because you deep down you associate success with being criticized or compared. It depends on what your limiting belief in your family were, so you adopted that. For example, I have a client who watched his older brother get constantly criticized despite his success. Now, every time Tom achieves something, he feels anxious, like he's waiting for someone to tear him down. So he never fully steps into leadership, avoiding big financial risks to stay unnoticed. On another case, or another client of mine who was an entrepreneur, it was like he never acted in his business. He did, but his deep-seated resentment towards his dad, or no, to his dad, towards the people who reminded him of his dad, completely derail him whenever he got triggered by this internal conflict and unresolved anger, made it impossible for him to move forward. Every time, I don't know, a supplier would make a mistake, he would come and say, "Oh, I knew it. I knew this is gonna happen." And he would just turn down and he would stop the project and he would just go somewhere else. I also have another example of someone who wanted to leave her current field and pursue her true passion, like physiotherapy. And because her father disapproved, saying things like, "After all the education I've paid for, you are going to become a masseuse, watching and touching other people's bodies." So, out of fear of criticism and rejection or denigration from her father, who was her figure, yeah, she resented. She couldn't give herself permission to make the change. For her, it wasn't about changing the job. It was the fact that she had to resolve the loyalty to her father. She needed to reach a place where her father's opinion no longer dictated her choices. It was the case. It was she had to go to a place where she could say, "This is what my heart wants. This, I'm okay with my dad's opinion, whatever he approves it or not." But you can see, when we are stuck in resentment, we let someone else's opinion decide our destiny, even if we don't like it. We all do this to some extent, so we care more about what others may say, what society, family, colleagues expect from us, more than we truly want. If I despise people who have achieved more than I have, in my mind will subconsciously prevent me from becoming what I detest from them. For example, why wouldn't I want to succeed if it means becoming like them? Yeah. And so this becomes another barrier to action. And this way you lose opportunities and obviously earning more money. So in a way you give up to a better financial situation. Then we have the hoarders. Yeah, you grew up around people who lived in survival mode, always talking about bad days ahead and stashing money under the mattress, figuratively speaking, not actually doing. Then you save obsessively but never invest, fearing that any risk is too dangerous. Or you are overly cautious in your business, always preparing but never taking bold action. For example, some people start but never follow through, or others don't start at all. They stay in their comfort zone, avoiding triggering old fears or repeating the unpleasant experiences they or their parents went through. So they think it's better to stay quiet in their corner and not expose themselves. And then all of this, who we have also people who initiate projects or talk endlessly about what they will do, but they never actually take the lead. So instead of working on the emotions that are holding them back. They just spend time gathering more approval, convincing more and more people that their business idea or career change is a good one, but they never take action. For example, regarding the financial hoarding, I have a client who has like more than 100K in savings, but refuses to invest in her business or future. She still lives frugally, she's afraid to touch her money. She tells herself that it's smart, but in reality, she's ruled by childhood stories or financial instability. She's so busy preparing for disaster that she's blocking the growth. On the other side, when you idolize the authority, we have also a few categories of people: those who won't charge what they worth. Let's say you admire a humble, self-sacrificing figure like a parent, teacher, mentor, anything, who never chased money. So you subconsciously keep yourself at that level. So then you feel guilty asking for more money, as if earning well means betraying your values. You also undercharge in business or stay in a low paying job because deep down success feels like disloyalty to those you admire. It's hard to believe, but it's really true, because we only want acceptance, we want to be loved. So we do all this stuff even financially. For example, I have a client whose mom always said, good people don't care about money. Now, as a business owner, she finds herself undercharging, avoiding price increases, and feeling uncomfortable talking about wealth. She doesn't even realize that she's still seeking approval from her old the old belief her mom was had, you know. Then we have people who over rely on other people. Yeah, you, for example, idolize mentors, teachers, or bosses and believe they have all the answers, and you only look up to them. You don't look behind them or above them. You take endless courses, certifications, and training, but you never feel ready to lead, sorry. Then you wait for validation before making big moves in your career or your business. And this is the case when you are stuck in a job where you follow rather than lead because stepping up feels overwhelming. For example, a client of mine wanted to start a coaching business, but feels like he always felt like he needed one more certification. He already trained for years, but he can't move forward without external permission. He's unconsciously waiting for that guru to tell him he's good enough. I also had a client who could fill up an entire room with diplomas and certificates. She dropped the university when she was very young, and she relocated to another country after that. And her mom disapproved that. And she threw that in her face all the time. Every time she had the chance to do it, she did it. And since then, she kept taking on courses and acquiring diplomas, but she never established herself in a job. Last year, she enrolled to university. Finally, she was feeling very proud of herself that she is doing what her mom was wanting her to do. But it was the that voice in her head, the mom's voice. So there where her money were, in courses and qualifications, diplomas, and everything. But she kept complaining that she never had money, but her money were there in courses. Then we have entrepreneurs, who subconsciously limit their success. Again, admiring a mentor or a family member, feel guilty surpassing them financially. Again, it's hard to believe, but I've seen it when you put numbers on paper and compare the situation in your life and what of the family or people you admire, you will see similarities. There is also the situation when you make just enough to stay within the financial range that feels acceptable in your circle. So you also look for acceptance and not being excluded from your circle of friends. That's why it's very important to watch who your friends are and to choose your friends wisely. I'm joking only. But it's true. It's true. You self-sabotage big for financial opportunities because making more than those you admire feels like a betrayal. Another client of mine, as an example, from a middle-class background, his parents worked hard but never earned more than 30K a year. Now, despite his business growing, he notices he always caps out around 30K. He never raises his prices, avoids scaling, and he doesn't want to outshine his family's financial success if they think that 30K a year is success in their perception. And in this situation, when we have people who admire, we can become financially dependent on that person. So we rely on the partner or family member or employer for financial security rather than building your own life. Or you can also avoid financial planning because you are subconsciously expecting someone else to handle it for you. And this way you are sabotaging opportunities to earn more because deep down you associate financial independence with uncertainty or fear. Now, let me know, what do you think? Do you recognize any of these behaviors in your life? So when it comes to money, these attachments, both positive and negative, are the root of our financial blocks. Because the limiting beliefs, probably you've heard so many times, limiting beliefs, where they come from, they carry from these attachments we have from our childhood, from our adolescence. It's from our adult years even, but even those formed in adult years, they formed on top of what we already had there. So they only just built up more. We really absorb them from these authority figures whenever they were role models or people we rejected, because we can we adopt limiting beliefs even when we reject people and ideas or something. So the financial habits are just patterns we subconsciously repeat. If you struggle with money, if you have a strained relationships with family, clients, employees, it's all part of the same dynamic. And at the core of it, it's a feeling of having no power, financial dependency, and an invisible like ceiling, like an invisible limitation we just can't seem to break through. I hope that was clear, but I would like also to summarize. So we essentially have two distinct fears. The fear of losing what we are attached to in the admiration pole, and the fear of encountering what we reject, like the predator, metaphorically speaking. So what we resent. That's all. if we can see this and find this in our lives, it's so liberating, even empowering. When you hold on to resentment and fear towards someone, your entire mindset shifts. And without even realizing, you start developing patterns that keep you stuck, actually. So I'm gonna repeat again. In You can play it way too safe, so you are overly cautious. You live in chronic stress or burnout. Yeah, so you are in constant fight mode, burning your energy on imaginary battles. Then you rebel for the sake of rebelling. So you don't just resist the authority, you actively do opposite what you think they want. And you get stuck in a scarcity mindset. So you start thinking hyper over conservative, hoarding money for bad days. And on the other side is you ignore your own inspiration, your own values, whatever you want, your own goals, your own path. You become a people pleaser. So you constantly compare yourself to them, trying to measure up. You unconsciously limit your success, and you depend on their validation. So you seek their approval and support all the time. So how to identify and break your financial patterns, the ones that we talked about? How many of you have recognized some of these patterns in yourself? Maybe some of you are thinking not all the patterns come from childhood, right? Yeah, it's not everything is rooted in childhood, but most of it is. The way our mind processes experiences, what is it labels as good and bad, what to seek, what to avoid, and it creates our subconscious, let's say, operating system, like a laptop or a computer. So once the system is in place, it runs on autopilot unless we are consciously rewire it. That's why I said that 95% of our decisions are taken subconsciously and only 5% consciously. How we break from these patterns, I have a few, let's say I have a few tricks I do myself and for my clients. First, first is to stop jumping to solutions without understanding the problem. Because we often run to find solutions without even fully understand what's happening beneath the surface. That's why I've taken time to explain this in terms of the four poles: admiration, resentment, pride, and shame. So personally, I take notes on my phone when I track my patterns. It's like a self-awareness journal, if you like. So I have four categories. One is for admiration. Whenever I feel subordinated to someone, let's say smarter than me, or I feel like someone has more um, is more organized than me, when I feel that, I get that feeling, I just take a note of that feeling and my thoughts. I also have a column for resentment. Yeah, I shut down or I get defensive when dealing with certain types of people. I just note down those patterns and my thoughts. In pride, for example, I highlight how much I do. For example, I find myself say, "Oh, I worked all day today. I sacrificed myself, or I feel the need to be acknowledged." I just put all these things down. In the shame column, for example, when I don't ask for higher rates because I find myself asking, who am I to charge that much? Yeah. Whenever I notice these thoughts or behaviors creeping in, I add them to my list, because self-awareness isn't just about recognizing your mental habits, it's about catching them in the moment and tracing them back to the subconscious belief that's driving them. There's also another thing is to listen to your body, because your body is always telling you something. Your body speaks before your mind even catches up. Every physical sensation is a clue about what's happening inside. For example, if you have a tight stomach, you might be feeling afraid of losing something you admire or facing something you resent, or maybe a flushed face or looking down in the ground can say guilt or shame, or maybe excitement or obsession. It could be resentment or pride. It can be anything. So your body is like a built-in feedback system helping you decode your subconscious patterns. Let's say you get that knot in your stomach before an important meeting, yeah? Instead of just pushing it through, ask yourself, what exactly am I afraid of? Am I am I bracing the criticism? Am I about to over explain myself? Because I always did when I in the past, when I was criticized, I was finding explanations, and I was whenever I was feeling insecure. Uh, when else I have reacted that way? Which parent or grandparent or authority criticized me, and for what? So these patterns don't just show up in one area of life. They repeat across different situations. So if you've always felt like the need to justify yourself in the past, chances are that you'll do it again and again in moments of pressure. Then you have to identify the root cause before trying to fix it. Here's where most people go wrong. They want a quick fix. You're feeling anxious? Let's take a pill. Having a panic attack? Just make them stop somehow, quick. But what if the real solution isn't about suppressing the anxiety, but understanding what's triggering it in the first place? So instead of saying I have anxiety, how do I make it go away? Ask, what exactly am I anxious about? Which of the four poles is driving the fear, the anxiety? What specific belief or past experience is making me react this way? Because you've been acting that way, so the trigger is there. You've been acting that way before. And this is the real work, not just managing the symptoms, but getting to the source and rewiring how you respond. Because when you understand the root cause, you don't need a band-aid solution. You just actually dissolve the pattern for good. The bottom line is most of us are walking around running on subconscious programming we never questioned, whether it's admiration that makes us play small, or resentment that makes us sabotage, or pride that makes us overcompensate, or shame that makes us shrink. We all carry something. And the key isn't to force change, is to observe, to understand, and unravel the old patterns. Like I said yesterday, we are like the onion, and take the peeling the onion of the skin one by one, because that's how you get to the core, to what you how you actually are and what inspires you, and that's how you get to do what you really want to do, regardless that is a better financial situation or a better relationship or anything else in your social area, your mental health. So it's everywhere, or job, even career. As I said, I have a few exercises. I have one exercise for breaking the admiration, and one exercise for the resentment side. Tell me in the chat or unmute yourself and tell me if you noticed any similar patterns in your life. It is like debt, although your parents were not in debt. Yeah, but you probably adopted this from someone. So you find them chaotic. You did find them chaotic, yes, even if they didn't have debt, but they didn't save up as well. So they didn't have enough for themselves. So you do exactly the opposite. You don't want to be like them, because this tells me this is not security. Yes, you prefer stability just because you experienced instability. You saw how they struggled when they were down, and you don't want to get there. It's going to be interesting to see the results, and if it had any results, because it's so powerful. They have very all the exercises have very insightful and reflective questions and methods and steps how to dissolve each one of the poles. It might not solve the problem entirely, because it might need to go deeper than just answering to some questions, but it's at least getting some awareness. The problem is with unchecked admiration is that it creates dependency on people, traits, circumstances. So if you see something as purely positive with no downside, it becomes like a drug. So that's why any attachment to admiration and or something we put on the pedestal, like we realize our mind thinks that we get only positives out of it, no negatives, although the negatives exist. It creates an addiction, like the drug. Yeah. And like any addiction, whatever it's people shopping or validation, you lose control. To get back control, you need to balance your mind. You need to see the negatives as well in that only positive pole. It's pretty insightful. All the exercises are, because it's about stepping into self-governance, into taking control, and realizing that you don't need to be like someone else or have them in your life. That's really the target. That's you appreciating yourself. It's what we want. This is pretty much it for tonight. I am waiting for questions if you have more. Tomorrow we will also build up on this side, because admiration and resentment also take us to fantasies, creating fantasies and having fears. So tomorrow we talk about these fantasies and fears more, and how they can affect our financial situation, our decisions. Thank you for being here. As I said at the beginning, I'm pretty sure you got a different understanding of and different view of how you see your actions or inactions now.